we are looking forward to some football tonight right here on NFL Network. It's the start of week 2 of the preseason. It's Patriots, Eagles. So let's unpack the Eagles side of things. Bad taste in everyone's mouth the way last year finished. It was a drop-off of epic proportions, the one that we did not expect happen to that team coached by Nick Sirianni with those players. Peter, do you view the way the Eagles finished 2023 as an anomaly or something they should actually be fearful of the way starting 2024?
It was horrible. I mean, there was a stink to that team at the end of the year, so much so that they lost like 32-9 in Tampa on a Monday night game in the playoffs, and like no one was even surprised because they limped to the end of the season. It was so bad. They won one game in their final like 5 weeks, and it was over the Tommy DeVito-led Giants on Christmas at home, and they almost gave that game away. Darius Slayton had that big 80-yard touchdown, and the defensive backfield was a mess. And there are guys in that defensive backfield that, like, we have seen with our own two eyes, like, be awesome in this league. Like, Kevin Byard was awesome for many years, and then he goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's like he can't play all of a sudden. You look at Darius Slay, like, he's had amazing Pro Bowl seasons, and they couldn't do much against anybody in the backfield. So what they do this offseason, they bring in Vic Fangio, who is like your disciplinarian, let's actually shore up the defense and let's give it like a look that teams hate coaching against.
It's good.
I think it's good. Is it enough to offset the loss of Jason Kelce? Is it enough to offset all the offseason of Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni stuff that has been the entire summer, them putting it to bed? I'm going to say they did enough to at least wipe the slate clean. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm putting them as the NFC East winner right now. I've got to decide between them and Dallas. And then, of course, the Giants and Commanders are probably in their buildings thinking, like, you know what? Those teams are both susceptible and have had some really weird offseasons. So I look at the Eagles roster. Of course they look great. And, of course, everything's right. I look at the coaching staff. You add Vic Fangio in that defense, which is complex, but also, like, this gives fits for young quarterbacks. Yeah, it seems right. But I don't know. I don't know if that was an anomaly because the last time I saw Jalen Hurts, it was not pretty.
Yeah, I'd say this is an anomaly. Look, they started off strong and everybody was excited. There was something there. There's something that you take from that. There was something that they were doing right. Now, the slump, they went on that back half slump and it looked awful. I mean, like, we can all agree to that. It was bad. For whatever that reason, I wasn't in that locker room. I couldn't tell you what was going on. But I can tell you what was produced wasn't cool. But what they did, yes, you lose Jason Kelce, but then you add something special to this offense, and that's Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, to me, I think makes this thing all better again. They haven't had a running back like that since Shady McCoy. I mean, he's that dynamic. He does that much for this offense. And so I believe this team could get back to being an 11-plus win team. You talk about fighting in that division. I don't know. Right now, they look like they have the upper hand on the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion. I think they have that upper hand. So I think we're going to go back and see that 2022 Philadelphia Eagles that look very, very strong, maybe even a better team than the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles.
Wow.
Maybe.
Wow.
I don't know. Listen, I like Saquon too. We got to get this fixed, whatever happens. Just to remind the exact way that it went down. For a team to start 10-1 and then lose 5 of their last 6 games, 5 of their last 6 they did. It's happened 6 times in NFL history, 6 times, and still go to the playoffs, and then they just completely fell apart. And as I've said many times, there wasn't an obvious reason to point to. There was not a major injury. There was not an off-the-field tragedy that tore the team apart, and we've seen that. It just kind of died right there for reasons we're not even sure of. And the low point of it, if you remember, they lose, actually, it was this game to the Seahawks, and that was to drop to 10-4, 3 losses in a row. And afterwards, Jalen Hurts questions how, quote, committed the Eagles were. Mm-hmm. And then when asked what he meant by committed, he replied that he did not have a dictionary on him. So that is where it started to fall apart. Now, it was a long time ago, but the principles are all still there. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happened. It's one of the worst meltdowns we've ever seen. Here's what I do know. This team needs a win fast. Like, they need an early win more than anybody ever. They open at home, which is maybe a bad thing, against the Packers. It's this weird game on Peacock at like 5:15. Like, you got
It's in Brazil.
It's in Brazil. Okay, so it's far from Philadelphia. I should know that. You got to win in Brazil. No, Peter, you got to tell me that.
Got to win in Brazil.
I don't care if it's on Mars. You have to beat the Packers. Everyone's going to be watching. It's like, if you lose that game, it's like, well, then it isn't fixed, because then you're on your schedule. I think more than anybody ever, you need to win the week 1 game. And really, for the great people of where, Peter?
Sao Paulo.
Sao Paulo. You got to win it for them, because then if it carries over, then we got a problem.
It begs me to ask the question I always like, Kyle. When you went to Brazil, Sao Paulo, did you yourself have a good experience, one of a team that's going to win there or one that will lose there? Kyle, your time in Sao Paulo, go.
Man, that should be behind a paywall. I went there as a young man, 26 years old, 26 with one of my bros, just a dude's trip down to Brazil, like a bucket list type thing. Listen, the culture down there is really fun and positive and affectionate and loving. And I just hope that some of that finds its way to the Philadelphia Eagles, because it certainly found its way to me.
Hold on, Kyle. I got to revisit this. Hold on. Why'd you go to Sao Paulo? All that traffic over there, you should have gone down to Rio, man. Like, that's where the action
Oh, he has opinions as to where you could have gone when you were 26.
We went to Buenos Aires. We did it all, guys. Argentina also. This was it. This is kind of like my one last dance. You know what I'm saying?
During that trip?
The way Kyle described Brazil, fun and positive and affectionate. It's like what you want between a relationship between head coach and quarterback at this point. So this is what I've been curious about all summer, is the where there's smoke, there's fire conversation, because we've got Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Whoever has opinions about what's going on in that relationship, and they're writing about it in the Philadelphia media, Jalen Hurts is starting press conferences before even being asked questions, trying to give his takes on, listen, you guys have you guys have a job to do line, and I know you want to write about this relationship. Peter, I'm so curious about where this is coming from, why it's happening, and frankly, what are you hearing from the actual dynamic within that building?
Yeah, everything's great right now. That's all I'm hearing. Everything's wonderful. But Jalen Hurts did have comments in his last press conference before they went on their summer break that had people scratching their heads about the offense. They did bring in Kellen Moore to now call the shots instead of really Sirianni calling the plays, and Nick's an offensive coach, so you raise your eyebrows with that. Look, that Philly media, they are salivating to get to the bottom of this, and they are frothing at the mouth to tear it apart if it goes wrong. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's see if it could go all right. The talent is so good on this team. You look at all these players, and then you add Saquon, and you're like, it's an all-star team. So just don't mess it up. Yeah. And yet, at the end of last season, they couldn't beat a high school team at the end of last season. So it was like, all right, something's up. So to me, Jamie, it's all valid questioning, because the commentary, everything externally, it has raised eyebrows. I will say one thing. The NFL does this 2028 Olympics commercial, which we've talked about. They chose one guy. They flew Jalen Hurts from Philadelphia to LA to be in this ad to light the torch that ran during the Olympics. It's like, the NFL's in. I think we're all in. The Super Bowl was maybe the best performance Jalen Hurts has ever had in his life. We all think he's the coolest guy in this great league. Last year ended so weird that, even after the contract extension, now people are starting to poke holes in his game. I think this is a big year for Jalen Hurts. And it's a shame, because I thought we put those questions to bed with one of the greatest seasons ever, with what he had back in 2022.
Well, I think it's important for the Eagles. This goes back to something I remember my high school coach telling me, which was, don't read your ink. And it's very easy when you have early success like that, when you go on such a hot streak. And when I say reading your ink, I'm probably not reading newspapers anymore. They're probably going in, reading, the text messages and the social media, and you start to believe the hype. And you need a coach who can put people in a position to go, you know what, cancel that noise. You got to cancel it out, because I love what Kyle was saying. It really was one of those enigmas where you're going, wait, hold up. There isn't an injury. What's happening? They got all their personnel there. You've got the same coaches. There wasn't this dramatic change that shifted everything. So I think if you stop reading the ink, stop picking up the phone, stop listening to what all the pundits are saying and how great you are, maybe that changes. And I think they'll probably make those changes within the locker room, because that's a cultural thing that I think ended up getting them at the back end.
I mean, it's just so weird. We're sitting here as Akbar's talking, and we were talking about how loaded the team was and how talented. There's Peter.
Yeah.
How talented they were. Speaking of loaded with talent,
Yeah.
We forgot that just casually Julio Jones was on the team. Like he's a guy who's gonna
Scored a touchdown.
Yeah,
I think so.
He will moonwalk into the Hall of Fame someday, and he was on the team as an afterthought. Not to mention, this team also had a literal unstoppable play that was making people want to change the rules of football because they couldn't stop the Eagles. And it still fell apart. So it almost is like when I'm seeing Devontae and AJ, now Saquon, it's like, man, if you can't win with this, like, what are you doing? What can you win with? There's a pressure that comes with having that good of a roster. Huge week one game. Huge week one game in Brazil.
Kellen Moore is an interesting piece of this because here was Kellen, this rising star. It was like he's going to be the next head coach of the Cowboys. It's a done deal. And then he's going to interview for the Dolphins. And it's like, wow, they chose Mike McDaniel over Kellen Moore. That's surprising. Okay, but Kellen Moore is still the guy. And then after the Cowboys season fell apart a couple years ago, the Chargers bring him in last year, and it's like Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore, like, oh my God.
Yeah, no.
Didn't do it. Didn't happen. So now Kellen Moore is Philly, and it's like, all right, now Kellen Moore. It's like, all right, so you've got Jalen Hurts, Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, Nick Sirianni, all these people looking to prove something, and they've got this all-star talent. Like, it should happen. Chemistry really matters on this team, and chemistry between the coach and the quarterback, I think, is going to be analyzed till the end of the season, no matter how it goes, good or bad.
Kyle, it's so funny that way you're saying this, like, you two are spitballing, like, well, how did this happen to this? What I also just remembered is, like, that crazy change that happened defensively with the play calling, and Matt Patricia was then there, too. Let's review that again, because, like, then I'm thinking of Kevin Byard on the Bears
move
now.
Forward.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
It's just crazy when you consider all that happened and the way it finished, and my goodness, now here we are with the Eagles, and they're starting their season off in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Kyle. Here we go.